Hi everyone. In this video, I want to talk about long run average total cost, which is the only cost that we are going actually to discuss in the long run. Remember, the focus of our class is on short run, and we already talked about short run costs, different types of short run costs. So just as a quick review, we talked about total cost. So we had three different total costs in the short run, like total fixed cost, total variable cost, and then total cost itself, which is the sum of average total, the sum of total cost and total variable cost. We also talked about cost per unit of output. So you can definitely watch my other videos on these type of costs that I'm naming in the short run. We talked about cost per unit of output in the short run. The examples were average fixed cost, average variable cost, average total cost. And we also talked about marginal cost, which was the additional cost of making additional output. So the only cost we're going to discuss in the long run is, again, the cost per unit of output, which is just for total cost. We call it ATC, or average total cost. Again, remember, this is the total cost per unit of output in the long run. If you remember from short run average costs or cost per unit of output in the short run, the majority of our cost per unit of output in short run, like average variable cost, average total cost, even marginal cost, they were all U-shaped. The only non-U-shaped kind of cost per unit of output in the short run was average fixed cost, which had a decreasing function. So it's kind of easy to remember that the majority of average costs in short run are U-shaped except average fixed cost. And again, it's also easy to remember that the long run average total cost, the only long run cost we have, is also U-shaped. So this is the shape of our average total cost in the long run. So it comes from basically putting together different average total cost in the short run. So we have multiple U-shaped average total costs, which are U-shaped here. So if you put together all these short run average total cost, then you can get your long run average total cost. So long run average total cost is the sum of all these short run average total cost. That's why our average total cost is also U-shaped. You can think about these short run average total costs as like average total costs in first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and so forth. So if you put them together, then you will have your U-shaped long run average total costs, which somehow looks like this. So now I want to talk about different parts of this average total cost. So as you can see here, the first part of this average total cost is where the average total cost is going down. We are making more output, but the cost per unit of output basically is going down. So I'm talking about quantity 0 up to quantity 1. So in this area, basically, we are making more output, we're making more goods and services, but the cost per unit of output, cost for making one quantity is going down. This is what any business wants to see. We call this part of long run average total cost economies of scale. So let's see if I can type it down because it would be much faster. So economies of scale. So you are increasing the amount of basically inputs, let's say your resources by, let's say 2%, but your output will go up by more than 2%. And the reason for that is the efficiency here and the productivity is pretty high. You have a good size firm, you are making right amount of output, good amount of output. You have good managers when we are operating at economies of scale. Everybody knows what they're doing, so there is clear, basically, job description for everybody. So that's why the company is able to make more output at lower cost per unit of output. Now let's look at this part of the average total cost in the long run, which somehow is the place where we're making more output between quantity one and Q2. So we are making more, but the cost per unit of output in the long run is somehow fixed. So we can increase the amount of basically, so we call it, first of all, constant returns to scale. And this is the place where we're increasing, let's say, the amount of input our resources, land, labor, capital, let's say by 5%, and the amount of output will go up by exactly 5% because the cost per unit of output is fixed. So you see lots of automobile companies who are operating at the constant returns to scale part. So they are able basically to make more money by duplicating and copying their successful production lines. So they are able to make basically more money or increase their profit by selling more. So they can successfully duplicate their production lines over and over again and keep their costs basically fixed, which is again a great place for businesses to be at a constant returns to scale in the long run. So the margins compared to economies of scale obviously is smaller because the cost is fixed. Remember, at the economies of scale, we are making more output at the lower cost. So the cost component of our profit is constantly declining. And since we are making more output, the total revenue component of our profit is constantly increasing. So the margins at the economies of scale is much greater than constant returns to scale. But remember that the constant returns to scale policy is still a safer spot to be in the long run for businesses because they have control over their costs. They can keep the cost fixed and make more output. This part beyond Q2, this part of average total cost in the long run is a place where any business should avoid. It is called diseconomies of scale. This is a place where we are making more output, but the cost per unit of output, as you can see here, let me switch to my pen, the cost per unit of output is going up, right? So we are making more, we are beyond Q2. So we are making more, but the cost per unit of output is going up. So the main reason that we see actually this situation is because the firm is too big. We are making too much output that we cannot even control. So we have lots of layers of management here that are not synced. So the productivity is pretty low. And basically, nobody knows what they're doing. The size of the firm, as I said, is just too big to manage. So we do not have good managers here in charge to control basically the firm. So if you increase the amount of input or your resources, let's say by 1%, and these numbers that I just say for input and input are just random numbers, 1%, or let's say 5%, even 5%, the amount of output in this situation will go up, but by less than 5%, because again, the productivity efficiency is pretty low. So any business in the long run should avoid these economies of scale. So if a company wants to basically survive, they have to cut back their output this way. We will see massive layoffs if the company hit these economies of a scale part. So the economy should definitely, so the company, sorry, should definitely downsize. Otherwise, they're not going to survive. So that's the only cost we need to know for the long run. I hope that this graph actually makes sense for you. And make sure that you watch also the short run cost video that I recorded. It's along with production in the short run because production and costs are related.